Welcome to the Outlander Unhinged podcast, where we talk deep dives, wild theories, and the heart of Outlander. I'm Doreen.
I'm Liz.
I'm Jenny.
And I'm Katie. Grab your snacks, Sassenachs. It's time to talk about Outlander.
Welcome back, everyone. Thank you for tuning in and spending time with us as we rant and rave once again about the glory that is Outlander. We have a very hot topic, and we are discussing that hot topic today. I am personally invested in this topic, and I'm just going to say as a sidebar, Jenny and I might be beefing. We might have some issues we have to work out in anger management after.
I brought the Jersey mug today, so I am not holding back.
Katie and I are the bouncers.
We are. We're just going to sit here and
watch it all unfold. Well, without further ado, Jenny, do you want to introduce today's topic?
Today's topic is two sides of the same sword, analyzing and comparing James Fraser and Dougal Mackenzie.
This already stresses me out so much. So for today's discussion, let me preface this by saying that having healthy, respectful debates with your friends is important. Nuance and not living in an echo chamber is good for the soul. So, for context, a few episodes back, Liz referred to Dougal Mackenzie as the king of all narcissists. Liz, do you still stand by that opinion?
Let me think about that for a second. Yes, I do.
Yeah, she's holding strong. She's ready to go. Now, during that conversation, Jenny came back and said Dougal is no worse than Jamie and doesn't present to her as a narcissist. And she went on to say that the only reason Jamie is viewed in such high regard and didn't end up just like Dougal is because Claire came into the picture. Jenny, do you stand by that statement?
Yeah, absolutely. No, that is my buzzer. Thank you.
All right. So now that we've confirmed that no one's budging, we're going to debate positive and negative points about Jamie and Dougal. And if Jenny and I can prove they are the same as each other and one is not better than the other, we will be presenting points about Jamie's negative behaviors and how Dougal and Jamie are the same, or Dougal is better than Jamie. Katie and Liz will then present positive points about Jamie and how he is nothing like Dougal or better than Dougal. We will then round robin our points that we want to debate further and then make a final vote on if we think Jamie and Dougal are the same person, i.e. same side of the same sword. So, Liz and Katie, do you want to start with Jamie's positives and how you do not view him being anything like Dougal?
We sure do, Doreen. Thank you so much for giving us this blessed opportunity. Okay, everybody, buckle your seatbelts. We're going for a ride. We're taking a trip. So our first point is that Dougal is someone who manipulates others to serve his own agenda. And quite frankly, Jamie would never do that. Point one, done. Go ahead, Katie.
Our second point is Dougal convinced Claire and Jamie to get married in order to protect her from Blackjack Randall, but also to really bind her to the Mackenzies. And there was a greater plan in Dougal's mind, which was most likely related to the Rising. But he also had no care for Claire's feelings or her consent. And he just took it upon himself to shape Claire's life for whatever he thought the big picture would be. And there isn't any proof that he had any regard for Claire's long-term safety. And later in the season, later in the books, Dougal proposed marriage to Claire when Jamie was in Wentworth. And that's not because he loved or cared for her, but because he wanted Lollybrock. Whereas Jamie, on the other hand, admitted that he wanted Claire since the moment he saw her. He's loved her since she cried on him at Castle Leoch. And he also valiantly married Claire in order to protect her and keep her safe. And he was more than willing to share Lollybrock with her simply because he loved her, and whatever was his now belongs to her as well.
Excellent point. Excellent work. Okay. Point 3. Daddy Dougal hid money from his own brother, his own flesh and blood, while collecting rents, and never planned to tell Colum. It was only when Colum found out the truth of what Dougal was doing while he was out collecting the rents that he had no choice but to tell the truth. Jamie was never, ever deceitful towards Claire or any of the men of Lollybrock, or the men or the families who came to live on Fraser's Ridge. He also never went behind Claire's back to commit any kind of fraud or deceit. If anything, Jamie is sometimes too transparent. He shares a little bit too much, and he's too open with Claire.
Yeah.
Your turn, Katie.
Point 4. Dougal had an affair with Galis Duncan while he was married to his wife, Maura. So he selfishly took it upon himself to lay with another woman to fulfill whatever needs he thought he was entitled to, and he had no care for the repercussions that might come to his wife or his children, the Mackenzie name, and just the general reputations of Leoch. And yes, I know Jamie slept with other women while Claire was gone, but he never ever attempted anything or showed any interest while Claire was with him in the same time. Even Leary threw herself at him and he said, I can't, I made a vow.
Valid point. Excellent point. Okay, point 5. This is our last point. Dougal has always been jealous of Jamie. Jamie is well liked, he's respected, he's seen as a valuable member of the family and of the clans, and has also proven himself time and time again as a leader of men. Dougal cannot stand being in the shadows of his nephew or of his brother, quite frankly, as he has always been second rate compared to Colum. Jamie goes out of his way to do whatever is necessary for the betterment of the people around him, whoever they might be. He sometimes lets his emotions cloud his thoughts and actions because, let's be real, he does have a temper. He's read Jamie for a reason, but Jamie also has the ability to recognize when he is wrong or when he isn't doing something for the greater good. Dougal, on the other hand, thinks for himself and only for himself while using whoever the people are around him to get what he wants, which is leverage. Boom.
Okay, I don't have that kind of supporting evidence because I thought we were only allowed 2 sentences for our points. So our comments will mostly come back in our debate section. Jenny, I think we can wing it though. I could counteract all those points. You go first with our first.
All right, so let's start with Jamie's raped 2 women. That makes him substantially worse than Dougal. It might not be what people want to hear, but he did force himself upon Claire, and that happens multiple times. 2, he did force himself upon Geneva. Again, not popular, but it is what it is. Your turn, Doreen.
Okay, our second point is me trying to show how they are similar characters. Dougal and Jamie are both violent men. I don't think anyone can deny that. And the story is written to show us that one of them had to die. They were always going to be in this dance of one of them had to survive and one of them had to die. Jamie is arguably worse because he killed his uncle. And I already know the counter argument to that is going to be, well, Dougal hit him in the head with an axe and attempted to kill him. But again, this is about proving that they are very similar and that they will both do the same thing when held to that point. So one of them had to die. Dougal attempted it. He wasn't successful. And Jamie did it. Go ahead with your next point, Jenny.
Okay. So, third point is to show they are the same. Both Jamie and Dougal lie and manipulate to further their own agenda. Jamie trying to undermine a revolution with his own people, and Dougal trying to start a rising. It's just two sides of the same coin. You know, I don't know. We'll go into that deeper when we go further in the show. Doreen, go ahead.
Okay, this one is also going to be up for debate, and I know people will feel some kind of way about it. But the fourth point is that both of them like strong women, and the women heavily impact their behavior and the way that they carry forward. Claire calms Jamie down, and Galus brings out Dougal's strength to fight the revolution. You could, and I will, argue that they are both easily manipulated by the women in their life and let lust and desire cloud their decision making. And you can see that with Jamie choosing to go against and be completely deceitful to everyone in France because of something that Claire tells him and trying to make a better future for them. Okay, we'll expand on that.
Okay, fifth point, last point that we have a million, is that they're both second sons and they both can't be lairds of their respective clans. As a result of their personalities and actions, that's what causes them not to be able to be laird. So again, my point is not to prove that necessarily one is worse than the other. My goal here is to prove that they're the same people, just different directions.
Okay. I agree. I see it. So we made our quick bullet points. Out of the ones that we made, what stands out to you the most that you want to try to debate and prove? And then we will counteract yours. Or do you want us to counteract yours first? It's up to you.
I'm good with whatever.
Okay, we'll counteract yours then.
Bring it. Bring it on.
Okay.
Let's hear it.
Okay. We are choosing to counteract your point that Dougal is someone who manipulates others to serve his own agenda and that Jamie would never do that.
We knew you were going to pick that one.
I'd like to see a try.
Okay. I mean, I feel like I know which one you guys are going to pick of ours too. We're probably going to end up debating all of them because who are we kidding? We can't stand it. Jamie's entire purpose in France was to deceive and manipulate both sides. And as a result, he was lying and deceiving everyone to further his own agenda. He deceived his men, the king, the Bonnie Prince, and he deceives Claire when he attends the duel with Blackjack Randall against her wishes, likely causing her to go into early labor and lose faith, and having to do all of that alone, by the way. And then she is forced to sleep with the king in order to get him freed. Now, Jenny, medically, we can prove that stress is a trigger for early labor, correct?
Absolutely. Stress absolutely can induce labor. And when it's not time, the placenta, obviously, it can get stuck within the uterus, and you're causing a unnatural, I'm trying to word this correctly. You're forcing the birth to happen, so it doesn't have time to properly unadhere from the uterine wall, and it left that piece behind, which is what caused her to have sepsis, which is just a systemic infection within the blood. And yeah, it absolutely caused her to go into early labor and subsequently losing faith.
And it's also, I don't want to hone too much in on that. That's
Right.
a really sensitive topic. But I will say just the deceitfulness of him knowing that what it could mean for Frank to never exist and how much that meant to Claire. But he couldn't get past his own. And I get it because what he went through was awful, but he still put his own needs, desires, wants, vengeance ahead of something that he had given his word to Claire that he would not do, which caused a chain reaction of events that could have been avoided.
Absolutely. Absolutely. He paid his getting revenge was more important at that moment than the safety of his pregnant wife. And that, to me, I don't know how she stayed. To me, that's kind of unforgivable.
Okay, then you have the next part of that point.
Okay, so we have Jamie and Claire both admit at various points throughout the book that Jamie is deceitful, but that he hides it well. So this isn't a spoiler, but in A Breath of Snow and Ashes, chapter 33, Jamie is asking Claire if he thinks he has the traits of the old fox, to which Claire responds she thinks he does in some ways, but she feels he does have honor, and then tells him why. Yes, you are as ruthless as him, but maybe not as deceitful, which Jamie responds, oh, but I am. It's just only that I tried to hide it well. So even Jamie and Claire know this about Jamie. What do you think?
Well, even in the show, do you remember the scene where they're leaving the old fox and he does that whole thing, signing with Column and making a show of it, and then he brings the men down and he says, the old fox says to him, either way, I'm covered with the British or with, and
Right.
he goes away and Jamie says, oh my gosh, I just hope I'm not like that, but I think that I am. And Claire says, yeah, unfortunately you are. So,
Right.
okay. Next point to counteract their point is he deceived Claire again about when Claire came back, he lied to her about Leary. Instead of he just telling her and facing the music, he forced her to find out in an awful way and then proceeded to beat the shit out of her when she confronted him about it. And I've never seen Dougal beat the shit out of a woman. That's not the point, but I'm just saying, okay.
I'm going to add on to that. He also deceived her about William. He never told her when she came back. That should have been like the first thing. I know it happens that way in the show, but that's not what happens in the book, so that's not canon. She finds out through Lord John Grey that he has a son, and that's a pretty awful thing. And he knew she would never go back to the future, or he knew she would go back to the future if she found out he had another child, and that turns into a whole big thing. All right, and last, he deceived the Bonnie Prince by undermining the entire Jacobite cause. And you could argue he deceived the Jacobites, the others. He deceived his own cousin Jared by claiming he was a Jacobite when he really never was. Does he eventually? Yes, I do think that he eventually really does believe in the cause, but he definitely didn't tell the truth at that point. And he also deceived the other men who were going to give up their lives because he sent his own men home. So that's not really a nice thing to do. So I'm going to save my own people because I know that area will suffer, yet let all of the other men knowingly go into their death in battle.
Okay, actually,
right,
I have the last point. I have the last
Oh,
point.
yes.
And it was that he actually did deceive Column the same way that Dougal did. First of all, the money that Dougal was collecting was not money for rents. That was something that he was raising for his own cause. And Jamie was involved in that, whether he wanted to be or not. That's an arguable thing. And he didn't go back and tell Column. He didn't it was Willie who did that. So he was just as guilty as Dougal in deceiving that whole entire thing. And again, it's not an example of who's better and who's worse. It's about showing that him and Dougal are similar and that they will deceive people for their own agenda and their own cause. And I just think, and we'll talk about this, and I have it in my closing statement, it's about the way that they're written, because Jamie is written to be the hero. He's gorgeous. He loves Claire. There's this longing. There's this passion. He is set up to be the titular character that we all love. And I can recognize all of this about Jamie, and I still love him. I still think
same.
I love him. And I think Dougal is written to be the antihero, and not necessarily foil characters, but parallels, but meant to be viewed the way that we do. And it's only when we remove our own lenses that we can see the realities of both the characters and how similar they are. It's very similar to Galus and Claire, if we're being honest.
Yes.
So
absolutely. Yeah, I agree with that. And the last point was supposed to be about William, but I kind of added that into the part about Jamie and Claire. So
that's okay. Now
I think they're opposite characters, Claire and Jamie, Claire and Galus. I think Dougal and Jamie are just like you said, same person.
Liz is doing everything in her power to just keep calm right now because she wants to just say, shut up. You're wrong. Dougal's a narcissist.
I do.
Okay, which point of ours do you want to counteract?
Okay, so we are counteracting your point that Jamie and Dougal are the same, that both Jamie and Dougal lie and manipulate to further their agenda. Jamie trying to undermine a revolution and Dougal trying to start a rising.
Ooh, so basically the same thing. Okay, we both just
Yeah.
okay.
Okay, so we're
Bring it on.
we're arguing against that they are not the same. But that's the point that you made that we are arguing against.
Right.
So here we go.
Okay. So point number 1. Yes, Dougal is a patriot, and that part of him is admirable, but it's never just about a free and independent Scotland for him. There's also power in it for him because he wants glory and recognition and to be seen as this leader worth following. And to get there, he's completely fine with putting people in danger, with lying to them, and using them to get what he wants. And it's like people are just disposable to him. If someone has to suffer or die to move his cause forward, then that's just a price he's willing to pay.
Valid. Okay, second point. Jamie's motivation is totally different. He's not trying to stop the Battle of Culloden from happening because he wants power or recognition from the Bonnie Prince or the king. He's trying to stop what he knows is coming because of what Claire has told him. A massacre. Total destruction of the Highland way of life. Massive changes to Scotland. And yes, Jamie lies and schemes sometimes, but it's not for his personal gain. And we actually see the toll that takes on him. In France, for example, Jamie is barely holding himself together, trying to juggle politics, keeping secrets, and making impossible choices. And it's really more of a burden to him than anything.
Yeah. So, point 3, we see in season 2 the Battle of Preston Pans, right? The Bonnie Prince, who I know is not a leader, but even he can see through Dougal. So after the battle, we remember Dougal barges in and he's wanting to kill the English soldiers in there. He's very upset that they've been medically treated. He's not aware that the Bonnie Prince is right behind him, right? And Jamie stops him from killing the men, telling him, killing these men, that's not going to add to our victory. And Jamie was even joking with those men before because Claire wanted to test his urine, remember? And they were, I bet you can't make it this far. So he was joking around with them before. And I think that's because he's able to see the man behind the uniform, right? Where Dougal doesn't. And I think that makes a true leader. A true leader understands restraint, dignity, and just the weight of command. And that's something that Jamie understands, whereas Dougal is fueled by his anger and his ego. And Jamie also never views his men as disposable. He respects them, he protects them, and he really truly leads them. Where Dougal, on the other hand, only truly respects the men who are unwaveringly loyal to him. Everyone else is just kind of useful until they're not.
Mm-hmm. Good point. Okay, and here's our last argument. Jamie almost always chooses to sacrifice himself first. He's willing to sacrifice his reputation, his safety, and even his peace of mind before he ever thinks of sacrificing someone else. Dougal doesn't hesitate to do the exact opposite. We see that clearly when he uses Jamie's scars on his back to incite fear and anger, to raise money for the rising while out collecting rents. That moment says everything. Dougal doesn't respect his men, and he certainly doesn't respect his nephew, Jamie, or his privacy. And Jamie isn't just one of his men, he's family to Dougal. So they may share tactics and scheming at times, but who they are at their core and what they stand for and believe in are two very different things.
Mic drop.
Boom!
All right, let
Okay.
me start here. A little while ago, you said that Jamie does things for the greater good. Why is Dougal any different? Dougal using his back is for the greater good. They're going to wipe out the Highlands. So why is Jamie allowed to use it for the greater good, but Dougal isn't?
Because he's not just doing, I think it's like the heart of the issue. Like what is your reasoning behind it? You know what I mean? Whereas Jamie wants to save people. I mean, that could
Jamie
be
didn't want
Dougal's.
people at that point. Jamie is a 23-year-old, 23, 22. Dougal
Well, after
25 years of experience seeing the beatdown of the English onto the Scottish. So he comes, yes, angry and wants to rebel, but Jamie, so it's for the greater good. So people can see what's going to happen if they don't comply.
Right.
So-
And I totally get that. I just think it's more Dougal wants to prove a point, like that he wasn't. I think it's deep rooted issues with Dougal. You know what I mean?
We're not coming with facts. We're coming with feelings at this point. I'm not trying to be rude. I'm just trying to say all of this is I think Dougal. Based upon what?
Okay.
Okay.
All right. I want to ask a question. One of the things that you guys said was that people are disposable to Dougal and that he will just kill anyone who does not serve his cause unless they are extremely loyal to him. Do you not consider Jamie killing Dougal because he found out that Jamie was going to try and kill who they all believe to be the rightful king, treating people as disposable? I mean, he killed his own uncle because he was planning to kill who they all were literally getting ready to go to war and lay down their lives for because he's the rightful king. And I know you can say he was doing that because Jamie knew that there was going to be destruction, but Jamie really didn't know. He was taking Claire's word for it. They didn't really know what was going to happen if history had changed. And Jamie is not a god. He doesn't reserve the right to make decisions for all of those men without giving them a real choice. And then he was just going to kill the Bonnie Prince. Dougal finds out, and then he just kills his uncle. I mean, do you think that that was warranted? Or do you think that was Jamie, as an example, treating people as disposable?
So I guess I don't see that scene as just Jamie slaughtering Dougal for fun. I see that scene as Dougal initially going after Claire, and Jamie's the type of man who's going to protect his wife at any cost. And then it turned onto almost like a stalemate standoff between Dougal and Jamie. And I think that things were always going to come to a head. I think at the end of the day, it was always going to come down to Dougal versus Jamie. Who's going to take up the most space in the world? Who's the bigger man? Who's the better man?
But
because we both can't exist at the same time.
That's the whole point we're making, that it was always meant to be the two of them versus each other because they're so similar and they're fighting for the same things, and that they couldn't both exist. They couldn't both be Laird of Lollybrock. They both couldn't be Laird of Clan Mackenzie. They both couldn't exist in the same space. It was always going to be one of them. It started as far back when Dougal hit Jamie with the axe, and it ended with Jamie killing Dougal. And I think we all view it through our own lens of Jamie because, again, he's written as a hero. He's gorgeous. I'm not trying to undermine, because I tend to think Jamie has and I'm kind of hopping onto your side here because I'm a little bit more neutral in this, in the sense that I fully recognize Dougal and Jamie are the same, and I think Claire's influence and Jenny kind of opened my mind to Claire's influence does really shift Jamie from both of them being men of their time. They both want to free Scotland. I even justify, okay, yeah, Dougal wanted to marry Claire and Jamie because he wanted these rights to Lollybrock, but I view that as what's wrong with that? He didn't want it to go to the British. There's nothing wrong with that. If
It's for the greater good.
It's for the greater good. And I think, again, the way Jamie's written, he's a hero. We all love him. He's longing for Claire. He's passionate. He's going to fight for her, die for her, stand in purgatory. Who doesn't want that? I remember when I said, what do you guys mean by the king of all men? And that's kind of how I view it is every woman on the planet wants to be loved like that and that passion. And I think that myself included, we put on these rose-colored lenses when we're looking at Jamie and we don't want to realize like he was just as bad as Dougal, but he was given a modern wife, 9 books, and a ton of time to evolve. And we really don't ever know what would have happened with Dougal because we got 3 books, 3 seasons, and we never got his point of view. And at the end of the day, they were both fighting for a free Scotland, doing what they thought was best. Dougal showed compassion for all of the men that he loved. He was still loyal to Colum. He could have taken all the men that loyally fought for him and tried to overthrow Colum. At that point, Colum was weak. He couldn't fight. People probably would have went with Dougal, but he never did that.
And when we're talking about forcing Jamie to marry Claire, that's how deals were made back then. Women were property. So Dougal was also pushed into a marriage to calm the rage that happened when Ellen ran away with Brian. So making marriages to save property and clans was the way it went. So what he did by marrying the 2 of them wasn't any different than anybody else at that point.
I mean, do you guys
and again,
listen, Katie?
I like Jamie.
Oh, I love Jamie. I have
What's
a
that?
question for Listen, Katie. This is interesting.
I love all of the characters.
Do you guys think that can you recognize or do you completely reject the fact that besides being men of their time, that Dougal and Jamie are very similar in a lot of their behaviors, but that Jamie maybe has a bigger heart and had more time to grow?
Yeah, that's what I don't know necessarily that maybe that it's that he had time to grow. For me, it was just who he is at his core, right? Like he's always been, I mean, yeah, he's a Highlander. He's a 17th century Scottish Highlander. Like he's a warrior. So there is some fierceness to him. And I think it's also hard for me personally because I view show Jamie and book Jamie as 2 totally different people.
Agreed.
So where you're coming from, book Jamie, 100%. I see so many so many similarities to Dougal. But show Jamie, I have a harder time finding that because they've really, I think, like you said, Doreen, added rose-colored glasses to him and made him a lot softer to love him. And I don't know. I
think that's a really good point that you're making. And I think it's something that's very prevalent in our podcast as me being someone who read the books first, whether that's right, wrong, or indifferent. I kind of wish I didn't, if I could be honest. I wish I watched the show first because I feel that show watchers have such a deeper love than I do. And I almost wish I could change that. But I think it's interesting, and I think it comes out a lot in our debates that you can't change what, even now you guys are getting really far, especially Liz in the books. And you, Katie, yourself said when Jamie went back in that scene with Leary, I was so mad and it almost broke my heart. And I kind of really feel bad for you guys because you were introduced to this king of all men in the show. And as you're reading it, it kind of breaks your heart because it's changing this
Yes.
character that you really fell in love with. And I actually really sympathize with that because Outlander means so much to all of us. And I'm sure even these episodes are really hard because it's you, of course, recognize these bad things about the characters and you don't want to seem like you're ignoring them. but it's hard for me to shift from the book and it's hard for you to shift from the show because to the same point that you're making, if I had only ever watched the show, I would say Dougal is the worst human being and Jamie is the most incredible man, and that would really be it. And
Yeah.
I want to acknowledge that and give you guys that credit because I think it's a really hard thing to have to do and go through. And I never want to seem
It
insensitive to
is.
that. But
No. I know.
I wanted to say also that when you're thinking about the show, we've had this conversation a lot. When you think about show Jamie and show Frank, not to pull him in, but it's just an example, you're supposed to feel conflict. You're supposed to feel upset. You're supposed to feel that inner turmoil. And I think it's done the same way in the show between Dougal and Jamie, because the fact of the matter is that in the books, Dougal is a little bit different and Jamie is a little bit different. So you're getting a different perspective. When I think about Jamie, my mind initially goes to the show. The hero of everything, this good-looking, starry-eyed, strong, massive piece of grade A meat of a Highlander. That's what I think about. I'm not. I'm
I don't
not-
know if Sam would like that.
The salt,
Oh,
the
I
salt
think he'd
king,
like
give me
it.
the salt on top of it, right? But the point being that I do think that when you talk about show Jamie versus book Jamie, you get more of the hero. You get more of the I'm going to do everything I can to save you. I'm going to insert myself and my power and do whatever I can to protect you. In the show, you get that more than you do in the books because you do see more similarities between Jamie and Dougal personality-wise. But for me, I think it's still the intention behind the actions. And when I think about show Jamie, he puts his heart behind every single thing that he does. His
And see,
whole heart and his
not
whole
to
soul.
counter it, but I do see that as Dougal, like knowing that he sees what's coming. He sees the collapse of the Highland way of life, and I feel like he's not given the credit that he's due, like trying to save everyone. And one of the points I think you touched upon this, Doreen, was securing Lallybrock. And yeah, I would want to secure that as well. And it might seem mean, but sometimes decisions have to be made based upon taking feelings out of it. And I
Well-
see him the same way that you see Jamie. I absolutely agree that the books and the show are completely different characters.
And the thing is about Lollybrock is that is Mackenzie land. That is the
Yes.
Mackenzie's rightful place. Now we can do a book
Yep.
versus show and who built it and who didn't, but the land is the Mackenzies. And if it was going to, Jamie was at this point an outlaw, couldn't own land, all of these things. I would prefer that it would go to Dougal than the British. And I don't see it, and I kind of disagree with Jenny on this. I think he was also selfish. He wanted the castle, he wanted the power. I don't disregard that. And one thing I will say is I think Dougal is driven by, yes, he wants to free Scotland, but I also think there is a desire for power as well. But I don't necessarily think that that's not the case for Jamie either. He's just young at that point in the story. But even as
Right.
you get further along, Jamie really thrives as being in power. He gets off on being the one that's the Bonnie Prince's go-to and not Dougal. He loves being over Dougal and having that position over him. And I just think, and Jenny is the first person, I want to give her credit, who actually put this thought in my mind that if Claire never showed up, what direction would Jamie have really gone in? And I guess we'll never know. But I think at their core, they're both second sons. They both are men of their times. They both are products of what they grew up in, and they both want to free Scotland, and they're both going to do whatever they have to do. And one of them could only exist. They were always going to be at odds with each other. And Claire came in and gave Jamie purpose and gave him love and gave him a tenderness.
And a different point of view.
Yeah, and a different point of view that we don't see Dougal have. So I'm kind of in the middle, if that makes sense.
But I think it says a lot. I think it says a lot that Jamie listens to her, because in that time period, wives were meant to bear children, keep house, and shut up. You know what I mean? Like, so I think it says a lot that he respects her enough to listen to her and her opinions and her ideas. Whereas I don't know that Dougal would do that. I think maybe with Galis, but that's only because she was so like for the rising. But I'm sure he didn't with Mora. Like, I'm sure he didn't listen to her. I mean, it didn't seem like he really cared about her that much.
But that's the thing again. That's what I was.
He was never there. He didn't live with her.
Isn't that the same thing though? When you're talking about like Jamie really did listen to Claire, and yes, he did. He really valued her opinion and took it in. Dougal, it seems, and again, we don't have this as canon, so it's just opinion. It does seem that because they had the same goals, Jamie and Claire had the same goals. Dougal and Galis had the same goals. So I just don't see a free Scotland as a bad goal.
So I wanted to go back to the discussion about Lallybroch. And Katie, I know this is one of your favorite topics to talk about in all of Outlander. You're actually very well versed in the history of the Broch that is Lally. So I wanted to bring up the point, right? Because the question is, wasn't there an agreement made, even though Lallybroch was on Mackenzie lands, wasn't there an agreement made that that land would revert back to the Mackenzies if Ellen never had children? Okay, so Ellen did have children, and Jamie signed a deed of seisin at Culloden, which obviously happened, that was at a different time. But Lallybroch still belonged to Ellen's children. So Dougal, to me, this is just part of my opinion. Dougal then trying to marry Jamie's wife to take Lallybroch back is undermining and disrespecting his sister and Brian and their children. And to me, I can absolutely see, well, I don't want Lallybroch going to the Redcoats because they're just going to destroy it and do whatever they want with it. But can't it also be true, because two things can be true at the same time, that Dougal was acting very selfish in wanting to take that back and marrying his nephew's wife, maybe in a way to undermine his sister and Brian? I feel like there has to be some type of valid argument there too.
Well, okay, but you have to remember that when he was proposing to marry Claire at that point, Jamie, they didn't even know if he had already been hung, if he was dead. They didn't know if when they got to the prison he was dead or what the case was going to be. So it was never going to be that anyone was going to be able to get Lallybroch, because Jenny, as a female, she could not, correct me if I'm wrong, she could not inherit it. Correct?
I think it just said her children, didn't it? Ellen's children.
Mm-hmm.
I thought it said it went to...
Oh, it went to James. It went to young Jamie, didn't it?
Went to young Jamie before Culloden. That's who Jamie deeded it to. But at that point, right then, Dougal was probably thinking, and again, it goes back to me saying, of course, I think he wanted power. Of course, I think that was part of his motivation. But he's thinking to himself, this is a perfect way for me to get Lallybroch and all the men of Lallybroch and strengthen our Jacobite cause against the British. Who knows what, Ian and Jenny are going to do, or if while they're gone, the British are going to come, because Dougal's in hiding at this point. They're going to come in, they're going to storm Lallybroch. What's going to happen? What would happen to all of Jenny and Ian and her kids if Jamie died and the British came in, they're not going to be able to fight for Lollybrock. But
no, Ian especially, he's got one leg, he can't defend them.
Well,
so I think that again, it's a we don't have the point of view to know anything any of us are guessing at is our own lenses again, and our own interpretations of a topic.
True.
And I just
Look
think
how cute he is.
But can't
Dougal is not hot. I'm sorry, Graham. Yes, but Dougal,
Graham
I'm not.
McTavish, yes.
Yeah, but Dougal,
Graham
no,
baby.
I'm not attracted
Yes,
to
Graham
Dougal
baby.
at all.
I'm telling you right now, I would like to think I'd be Claire, but I would be gayless and I would be
Okay.
naked
So
in the
speaking of
woods.
Claire and Dougal, Dougal has always made passes at Claire. He wants to
blame
grind
him.
her corn. To grind her corn.
Corn.
Who
To
would blame him?
sample other pleasures in life.
He's very pretty. I don't have Claire.
So I don't know. I just think that's kind of weird that, like, the uncle is hitting on the nephew's wife. Like, I just feel like that's kind of weird.
But you guys are cool with young Ian wanting to marry Bree and Bree marrying her cousin Roger?
I mean, I was never cool with young Ian proposing marriage to Brianna.
Yeah, I was not okay with that.
No, I mean, he really was an Egypt there, of course. Absolutely.
Claire isn't married there. Claire,
but
she's just some random English woman.
No, but what
and
I'm
he's
saying
like,
is
my God.
It's about the time. It's so normal to marry your cousin or your nephew's wife. Nobody can. I mean, Dougal doesn't I don't think okay. One thing I will say about Dougal, and this is a negative, he's not exactly moral in the sense that he's going to, I can't, that's, my nephew really loved her. And I don't know I don't think Jamie would be that way, but it was kind of shitty that he was making out with Leary, having no intention of marrying her, and then, goes and bees with Claire and then ends up marrying Leary. So he doesn't really have a lot of moral compass there in that sense either, in the way that, I mean, there's no planet where him marrying Leary was a good moral character judgment, even if he thought he'd never see Claire again. She turned Claire in as a witch.
Well, and that's why I can't go by the show with that, because in the books he didn't know. Like that's just in my head. I'm just like, he didn't know, like
that's true, but he did know that he didn't know that she was the one who turned him in, but he knew all that it's a little bit different in the books. He knew some of it. He didn't know that the whole dancing on her grave and going to the witch trial and all that. He didn't know any of that, but he still knew that she was accusing Claire of being a witch, that she was trying to undermine their marriage. She was doing pretty bad things to Claire. And
with the ill wish.
Yeah. So, I mean, it's still.
And look, he still did know he had a child and didn't tell Claire. He still had this life that he waited until Lord John told him, like. So it really is, again, it's not that I dislike the characters. It's just that they both do the same type of things. That type of omission is a big, that's kind of a lie at that point.
And that's the thing, is because that's what when I go back to, I think you have to separate book Jamie from show Jamie, because show Jamie told her immediately.
Right.
Agreed. It was one of the first things he told her was, I have a son. But in the book, I was shocked.
Yeah.
I was like, what?
Yeah.
You did. You sent a text to the group text.
Yeah. So let's do this. Let's do this then. Okay. Is show only. Take every ounce of knowledge we have out of the books. Jenny, you specifically. Would you still make the same argument that Dougal and Jamie are the same character?
I know you're not going to like this, but I really do think so. Yeah. I would really have to sit down. This is the show. I watched it before I read the books. And I do love the fierceness of Dougal. Obviously, everybody knows that. It's getting tiring at this point. But like,
it's okay.
I do see them, because I've said this before. I'm a visual person. I look at them and I'm like, they're the same person. So
Okay.
is there something that you see differently than me?
Me?
Whoever wants to answer. Yeah, go ahead.
So it's hard for me to say because I don't know how I would have felt if I hadn't read the book characters.
Okay.
I think the show purposefully wrote all of the characters to be much more palatable to a larger
Mm-hmm.
audience.
Yes, agreed.
And I talk about this often that I love the way that the show did Yi Show because that
Yeah.
was, in my opinion, a really positive thing. However, they really highlighted and focused on Jamie being this absolutely unbelievably gorgeous, just longing for Claire, passionate love, and you can feel their chemistry. I mean, sometimes you're
Mm-hmm.
watching the show and you're like, "Oh, I hope nobody's watching because oh my gosh."
This is intimate.
Yeah, and I think Dougal was written in a way that he was the anti-hero and he's the antagonist and Jamie's the protagonist. So likely if I had only watched the show and I wasn't somebody who went so deep into trying to analyze characters, I think it's natural that we're supposed to love Jamie and hate Dougal. But
Mm-hmm.
I think myself, I could see both sides that they're both fighting for what they believe is the right cause. And we have a lot more POV of Jamie. We have a lot more interaction, and everything we see of Dougal is only the limited scope of what we see. You could argue, Dougal did get Galus from the witch trial. He got his child to safety being adopted by someone else. He got Galus to safety in Paris. And you can't ignore that because that is
Right.
showing that he's not all that selfish. He cared about his child. He gave himself and gave his child so that Colum could have an heir. He did not have to do that. He could have used that to his
Right.
advantage. So I think I do see that they're very similar, but I think they're written in a way that we're meant to love Jamie and hate Dougal. In the books, I just think Jamie's kind of not a great dude. And he does really unforgivable, awful things. And I always cry out, Frank's a racist. That's why I don't like him. But Jamie's worse than Frank, in my opinion. And Liz is probably conflicted on how to feel about that because she loves Frank, but she loves Jamie. So I don't know. But I just think we all
Right.
have to recognize that they're the same character in many, many ways. Jamie just has a bigger heart and is written to be more loved. So what about you,
And what do you
Katie?
think, Liz?
Oh,
That's what hurt me reading the books, honestly, because or not reading the books, but when we got to season 7, I think if anybody watches Liz and I's lives, we do live reactions to the new episodes that come out, and I couldn't watch the part where he was punching Lord John. And
Bad.
it wasn't necessarily so much that, it was the comments made afterwards, like about, I mean, just being homophobic. And I was very disappointed and I cried and cried about it. And I was just like, I had him on this pedestal and,
I
I
remember.
thought he was amazing. And how could they do that? And then every book reader was like, this happens in the book. This is exactly who Jamie is. You
Yep.
guys just aren't seeing it because they've made him nicer.
Yeah.
So that was really a slap across the face as a show watcher first, because, and now like reading the books and getting to know Jamie in the books, I'm like, I could totally see Jamie doing that,
Yeah.
and Jamie being that way. But
that the
that's
same
what was hard
scene
for me.
with the table with Claire? Was that the
Yeah,
same
well,
episode?
that scene was gross too. Yeah,
Oh,
I don't know
right.
why
And
they did that.
that to me, I can remember being one of these people. This is who Jamie is in this.
Yes.
Like this was the most Jamie I've ever seen Jamie in that
Yes.
episode.
And
Me
that's
too.
that's exactly it. Like the table scene,
It
it
was
was just
awful. It was
not
awkward.
him. It was not him making love to her. It was saying, you're mine, you're not anybody else's. And that's book Jamie.
And
1,000%.
correct me if I'm wrong, that happens in a bed in the books. Like
It
it's
does.
not on
So-
a freaking table. So
Okay,
weird.
so Katie, does that mean that Book Dougal and Jamie Dougal, you can see them having a lot of similarities?
Yeah, I mean the book I for sure can, I think. It's just the show where I have a little bit more of a, I see them differently. But
Okay,
yeah,
what about
book
you,
Jamie
Liz?
is
I think that it just goes back to two things can be true at the same time. In the books, there are more similarities between Jamie and Dougal because of the way Diana has written these characters. But in the show, I see them completely different because I think Jamie's just who he is as a man and the way that he loves so fiercely and makes decisions at a larger scale is very different from the way Dougal thinks. And that doesn't mean that Dougal is not patriotic or that he has not done noble things, because of course he has. I just see them as more separate in the show than I do in the books. So I think it's fair.
Wow,
Yeah,
I think all of our closing arguments are going to be moot points because this is kind of, I'm so proud
I
of
don't
us.
even, what's the point? Together, like, really, really well.
But I also think that this is part of why it's so important, why we push separating the books from the show, because you can watch the show and enjoy it for what it is, just as the show, and get to know the characters that way and understand their minds and understand the choices they make and why plot devices are used in show form. But then you read the books and sometimes it feels like you're in a totally different story because characters can be a little bit different. Scenes are happening very differently. You're getting a window into Diana's mind and the background that she had when creating these characters. So we always push. The books are the books and the show is the show, and you have to appreciate them and watch and read and interact with them very differently because sometimes you are getting two different sides of the same coin.
Or the same side of the same sword.
And look,
Okay.
it's guilty. We mesh the books and the show here a lot. And, you know, it's even hard for us sometimes to separate the two of what our first memory is. Things that happen in the show that never happen in the book and the other way around. So
It's so hard to remember.
yeah, agreed. It's a lot of information. I mean, you've got 800-page books that you're,
Yeah.
yeah.
I remember when I started reading them, and because Doreen is always like, did that happen in the show or the books? And, you know, which there are some things you absolutely know. I'm not trying to say that.
You're
but
right. Yeah.
I just, I started reading and I was like, oh my God, I get why she says this. Was that in the show or
Yeah.
was it in the books?
It's a
Was it in
lot.
both?
So I think
Yeah.
the final thing I want to ask, and if you guys have anything you want to ask, is why do you think that Dougal is a narcissist? Is it because of the intention behind his action? And then if that's the case, why don't you see that Jamie has those same narcissistic, like, do you think that Jamie also has narcissistic tendencies? I don't think either one of them are a narcissist, but I do think that they both have narcissistic tendencies. Would any of you agree with that?
Absolutely. I think they both do. I think they both have a need for power. I think they both like Jamie likes how he looks in a kilt. There's no two ways
I like
around
the way
it.
he
Like,
looks in
I
a
like
kilt,
how
too.
Jamie looks in a kilt. What's your fucking point, Jenny?
yeah, when he
I like the way he
walks
looks out of a
they
kilt,
want a
too.
Scott. They'll
Yeah.
get a Scott. Yeah,
I
he
like the
knows
view
what
from
he's doing
behind out of the kilt.
when he's dressed. He look. I'm rereading Snow and Ashes. I don't even know what just happened.
We're just talking about Jamie underneath his kilt. That's all. Go ahead.
Oh, there you go. In Snow and Ashes, I'm a little bit further ahead than Liz, and it's not a spoiler or anything. But Jamie and Claire ride into Brownstown, and he is in the book Highland regalia, hat with a hawk's feather in it. So don't tell me that man didn't know what he was doing riding into town all dressed
Hey,
up.
if
So
I was that hot, I would absolutely strut my stuff. I'd be like, look at me.
The little clap.
look at me.
This is Liz's new signature move. She's like, Doreen,
Her golf-
why did you put my little clap in? And I'm like, I could not resist the little clap. Okay,
It's true.
so
It's true.
Can you guys recognize that book Jamie has narcissistic traits as well as Dougal?
Yes.
Yeah, there's something to be said about selfishness. Yeah, there's something to be said about selfishness.
Yeah.
When I think of the word narcissist, I'm thinking about the intent behind the actions, the intent behind the words. And I think Jamie is more of a selfless character than Dougal is. And that's just how I see him. That Jamie is making decisions and thinking about the world around him, the people around him, whereas Dougal maybe has more tunnel vision about things. And it doesn't mean that he's a bad character. Dougal is necessary to the story, and he's a very
Unlike Colin.
important character. Unlike Colin. Jeez, Jenny. Oh my gosh.
My poor Colin.
But I do think that there are times when Jamie has been very selfish, or he has said very selfish things. And although I think he's still the perfect man, we have to see him for what he is in the book sometimes too. And that's a hard truth.
Yeah.
It's a hard truth, Diana. It's a hard truth. It is.
Yeah, it
Yeah.
sucks.
It is.
It does. It breaks a little piece of your heart
It
when
does.
you realize that they're not this image. And look, I think that even goes when it comes to the people who play them. You have this idea that, and I'm not saying he's not, but you have this idea that Sam is going through life on the morals of Jamie Fraser. You know what I mean? Like you become
Yeah.
so enamored with the actor playing the person that it's hard to separate them. And I know you've said this before, Doreen, you don't like to meet the actors because it breaks that what's the word I'm looking for? That image. It just goes away because now they're a person and they're not the character anymore.
Oh yeah, I don't even watch interviews. I can't do it. I don't want to see them as anything other than the character. So I think I just want to say that I'm really proud of us because
Yeah, this was great.
I think that we are providing and showing, and I always talk about oh my goodness. I always talk about media literacy and having nuanced conversation and how important it is. And everyone hears me always saying how much I hate AI. And it's because I just think that as a society, we're relying so much on just having information fed to us instead of forming our own opinions and having critical analysis conversations. And us being on social media and being content creators all day long, we're harassed in our comments and people attack us for not necessarily thinking the same way we do or saying something different. And it's very disheartening. And for me personally, one of the reasons I wanted to start this podcast is because I wanted to show that you can disagree with people. You can have such different opinions, but you can talk about it and come to a middle ground. And the whole point of growth as a human and consuming media and reading books is to have these conversations. I have had my mind changed by lists so much about Roger. I have had my mind changed about, characters from Jenny and Katie from different points of view. Hopefully I've changed your guys' mind on things. And I think it's so special and important to show people that you can respect people and have these kind of conversations and grow. And the point is they're fictional characters. It's not that serious.
Yeah.
And it's fun to have these conversations and to talk about ideas and concepts rather than just gossiping about our friends or something along those lines. And that was a very long-winded way of saying that this could have been a really hard topic, but I'm proud of us. And I think that we display emotional intelligence.
There
Pat
was no
ourselves on
flipping
the back.
tables list.
There was no. Let's all give ourselves a little list clap. Let's all do it together.
Bravo. Bravo.
No flipping tables.
And you guys at home listening or at work listening, you guys give yourself a little list clap too.
Jenny, where's the
Also, this is
buzzer?
totally random. This is totally random, but I have to make an editing note for those listening. Earlier, I said 17th century Scottish Highlander. I'm fully aware that Jamie's an 18th century Scottish Highlander. I don't know why 17th century just came into my mind, but
Again, anybody
18th
who thinks
century,
this
I
is,
do know that.
anybody who thinks this
1700s,
is
18th
easy,
century. Yes.
you will start thinking about, what did I say? Oh my God, what did I say? I have to fix it. And then you can't pay attention to what's going on in the moment because you're like, I have to fix that later on.
Yes, and
This
and
is not
just
easy.
so you guys know, Katie did need to say that because we will get harassed. We will in the comments.
Right.
Yeah.
It's hard. It's hard work.
Absolutely.
You know what? Creating a podcast is hard work. So give us some grace.
Yeah.
We love you. Thank you.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
Yes. Yes.
I think
It's
this
true.
was amazing. And
Yeah, this was great.
like you said, Doreen, I love that this requires us to really think about these characters. And I don't know, I think that's one of the fun things about Outlander is they're such deep characters. Like Diana has written them so well that you get to analyze them like this and be, it's just fun to do. I have a lot of fun with it. And like you said, it's nothing ever serious. If people don't agree with us, that's fine, but there's a respectful way to do it, I think. And I hope we're showing how to do that,
And there's still so much more to come with book 10 and Frank's book and Master Raymond's book.
Frank the
and
Tank. Frank the Tank.
I'm ready for the prequels too.
I am
And
so
Roger
ready.
Mac Daddy Woo too. Roger, come through. Roger, I know you will do it. Make me proud. Mac Daddy. Here we go.
I want more novellas, honestly. That's what I want.
Oh God. Yeah. That would be amazing.
Yeah.
Not Lord
yeah.
John
would be.
novellas, but just novellas.
I would love a novella on Blackjack Randall. I really would. I really would.
I would too.
I would too.
I would too. Katie, I just want you to
I
know,
wanna know
I
his
don't think
backstory.
Lord John is a poisonous mushroom, but I do think he has red flag behaviors because I think he's a good man at his core. I just think he's kind of creepy.
Agreed.
That's
Agreed.
my whole take
Well,
on Lord John.
I don't think he's a creep. I just think he's very messy.
Oh, that's a good way to say it. He's messy.
He's
messy.
He's very messy. Yeah.
Okay.
Yeah.
But I love him still.
He's just a little much.
I don't feel the need to make my closing argument because I feel that we all
Yeah,
kind
me
of
neither.
made our closing arguments. So I think if we're at time, we'll just
Yeah.
kind of wrap this one up and then dive into some really messy topics for next week.
Sounds good to me. Sounds good to me.
Okay.
All right. So thank you so much for joining us today and tuning in. And if you're not already, please follow us on the Outlander Unhinged TikTok page and YouTube page. And you can find our individual handles from there. We all kind of keep the same name, so it makes it nice and easy to follow.
And keep tuning in for more deep dives and wild theories.
Until next time, we will see you in the space between.
Enough of that.